by working this way for so long. Okay, it is lesson 10, part 2. So we've set up our payment page. Yep, I know. I'm the same between work and school, between teaching, prepping, and I'm taking 2 grad classes right now. So often I'm at the computer, 12 hours, sometimes 14, 15 hours in a day, where it seems like all I do is sleep, eat, and sit at the computer, which is just terrible for our bodies. But so we do have to be mindful of trying to do things to mitigate against the effects of it. So we've done our client end. We have our page. We're reading our publishable key, which is good. So the next step is the server end of things. So we've written our get method. And I'm going to go back to the documentation and read what it tells us to do. So if we look at the code for a minute, here on payment, so what's going to happen? So it's going to call a method called create session. When we click the button, it's going to perform a post and call create session. So this method lives on in the Stripe API. So this is going to send the amount and it's just going to send our publishable key to Stripe and generate a new session on Stripe. It's going to return us back a session ID from Stripe, and then it's going to redirect us. So if I go back to the documentation, let's look at what happens now. So in server, they've got some code in startup. We're going to leave that out, but we need this code. So back in the server documentation, I want you to click on the server.cs. We're going to copy this code on server.cs, but we don't need it until line 48. So we're going to copy it, and then we're going to make a few changes so it works for us. So I'm going to start on line 48. We'll just copy everything right down to line 86. I can leave out the closing curly bracket. So from line 48 to line 86, we'll just highlight and copy. And it's okay that we're copying the code. This is usually how we work with APIs. Most APIs give us the code we need, we copy it, and then we have to put it in our application, and then we modify it. So I'm going to go to my shop controller, and underneath the payment method, I'm just going to paste in, oops. I told you guys to copy it, I didn't copy it. But that yoga link is really good. I recommend it if your neck and hips are really killing you from sitting all day. So we'll paste that in. So this is going to process that create session, but we're going to modify it. I'm going to take out all the, whoops, sorry. We went a little too far. I'll give you other lines. Undo that. I copied a few things we didn't need. This is actually creating a class, which we don't need. We just need this. This HTTP post. Just down to here, I'm sorry. So lines 52 to 85. I'm going to copy those lines instead and paste them in. Above it, I'm going to add authorize. I'm going to take out all the white space, and then we're going to have to make, obviously, a bunch of changes here. So this is just their sample code, which we're going to have to modify for our own purposes. So the first thing I'm going to do is add authorize above it. And this is going to be our post method at shop. Now let's see what's in there. It's at create session. I'm going to change one thing in our form. I want it to post to a method called payment. So I'm going to change this to payment. I think we need to change that in our form. So on line 19, where it says fetch, and I think it was fetching create session. We're going to change that to payment. So this method I'm also going to call payment. Okay, doesn't allow me to do that. Okay, we'll call this process payment. And then I'll have to change it in my form as well. So we'll make our method called process payment. And again, in my view, I'll also call this process payment. The names have to match. So we're going to need to clean up. We need to add some references here. So I'll go up to the top and I'm going to add 2 references. These we'll have to make manually. Add references for Stripe. Whoops, sorry, using Stripe. And using our system configuration so we can read the secret key. So let's add those up. We need to add those up at the top of the shop controller. So we're going to reference Stripe, and we're going to reference our configuration so we can read our key from appsettings.json. Add those up at the top of your shop controller. Farouk, we're sending the publishable key to the Stripe JavaScript API. We get a JSON response back, and in there, we should have a session ID from Stripe. So this will be unique for every customer. So if we have 100 people shopping at once and they all click payment, each one is going to get a unique ID back from Stripe, so it can associate each payment with each customer session. So we're still going to have some errors here. That's okay. We'll clean them up one at a time. So we've now got an issue. Now that we've added our Stripe library, this has created some errors in code that was working previously, starting here on line 158. In our checkout method, it says order is ambiguous between our own order model and Stripe's order model. We now have two different classes in our project called order. So it says when we're creating an order here, it doesn't know what kind of order are we creating. So I'm going to change this, use my little code hint here. This is our own order class, our own model we created. So I'll just change this checkout method. So we're specifying this isn't a Stripe order. The Stripe orders happens later. So I'm going to change that, and there's probably going to be a couple of other references, including down here, where we have to do the same thing. When we call get object in our payment, we've got to specify it's not the Stripe order, it's our own order model. So I've changed this line and this line from just the word order with a capital O to models.order. So now anytime we reference order, we've got to specify, is it a Stripe order or is it our own custom order class? So now we get this option to add a reference to several of these things. So this first one is session create options. We're going to add the second reference. This is using Stripe checkout. So if we reference Stripe checkout, all of those errors in our process payment, they go away now. We don't need line 197. That's just hard coded in. Take it out. So this is .NET integration code from, and I'm going to put the link to where we find it. So if this ever changes or it breaks, we know where this code came from so we can go back to it. Because these APIs do get updated. In fact, the Stripe API, this version 3, this is new. A year ago when I taught this course, doing the payment was totally different. So let's see now. Our payment option is a card. We don't need to. Stripe allows us to pass in line items, like it allows us to specify every product in the order. We don't really need to do that. Just to keep it simple, we're just going to send in the order total. So up above here, we'll get the order again from our session variable. Order. So we're going to call get object, and we need to specify its models.order. And now we want to get the Stripe secret key from the configuration. and we're going to pass it to Stripe. So we'll call Stripe configuration dot API key equals oops. And now we want to read our secret key. Oh, sorry, it's underscore configuration. So Diana, I told you we would do this. You asked, where does the secret key go? So when we're processing the payment, that's when we have to send in the secret key. So the secret key and the publishable key, they need to match together, or Stripe will give us an unauthorized error, because it will say, we don't know which store this is. So now we can just make a few changes in here. Our amount, one thing to note is in Stripe, whenever we send in the payments are in cents. We don't send in dollars. So we're going to take our order.total and multiply it by 100. So if the order total's $150, we want to send in 15,000 cents. Now notice here it gives us a cast error. Our total is a double, but this is a long integer. So we have to do a conversion. So it says add in a cast. So do the math and then convert that result to a long integer. So there's no decimal places. Our currency we can hard code as CAD. And the name of the line item, I'll just again hard code this as COMP2084. Get me a game purchase. And I'll just set the quantity as 1. I'm not going to worry about the number of items. So we'll just bundle all the items in the cart, total it, and put that through as one charge. Our mode is payment. Everything else is mostly right except these two lines. So we need to know, wants to know, where are we going to redirect the user? So we're going to redirect them to HTTPS plus our request.host. So when we're running it in Visual Studio, this will be localhost :443 whatever. If we run it on Azure, it will be mystore.azurewebsites.net. And we're going to take out .html. So we'll create a success method. Do we even want to call it success? Call it save order. And if the user cancels the payment, we'll take them back to maybe to the cart page. They decide, we'll take them back to shop and cart. So we've taken what Stripe's given us We've attached our own order into it so we can read the total and convert it to cents. We've changed the currency. We've changed the description. We've added our secret key. And then we've modified, whoops, we could take a comma here. Won't worry about that suggestion. So I'll put this whole method up on paste bin, and then we can try it. No, we don't. So it'll load a blank screen. If it works, it'll load a blank screen. And if it works, we'll also be able to see a payment in the Stripe dashboard. So you can see here all my test payments that I've been putting through when I was kind of prepping this lesson. So if we get a white screen and the URL is save order, it worked, and then we can come back here and see our payment. So I'll just click on home in the panel because we'll be able to see a new payment for today in a minute. So also make sure in your payment form, right, the fetch is posting to process payment. So that way it's going to post to this method. So this method name needs to go in our form. So let's try this out. We may have to adjust it a bit, but we're going to cross our fingers and see what happens. What we just did was by far the most complicated part of today's lesson. That was fun. Nice big swig of coffee grounds. Okay, I'll put a couple items in my cart. One of these and one of those. Whoops. Let's go back. So I've got two items for $169.98. I'm going to check out. I'll continue to my payment. Okay. So that didn't work. Let's see why. So I'm going to go to my web console. We should have a JavaScript error. The page's settings block the loading out of a resource. Okay, so we've got some kind of JavaScript, some kind of error with our JavaScript. Let's see. Why? I think we followed everything that's here. So we've got our checkout button. So interesting, because we didn't get an error log to the console. Oh yes. Unexpected end of data. I wonder if this polyfill is causing a problem. I'm going to take that out, comment that out for a minute. We'll try to comment that out. I'll run my payment again. Okay. I now don't have a session variable. Get one of these. Okay, this may be the issue that the script is blocked. Okay, so it did run the post. Whoops. The URL is wrong. It's calling process payment in the root. We need localhost/shop/process payment. So in this URL, it must be shop/process payment. So I'm going to try that again. So it's posting to the wrong URL, so it wasn't going to receive. We may still need to deal with this as well. We'll have to come back to that one. We'll try again. I'll check out again. Okay, so now it's calling Stripe. It's passing in the name of our store. You may not have this. I'll show you where to get the name. It has the name of our purchase and the amount. And the test card that works is we just alternate. Whoops. Sorry, so I'll put it in as my Ontario Tech email. And if for the card number, this card number is valid. Just alternate 4 2s. Yes, I'll show you about the business name in a second. Easy to set. So yes, sorry, it's asking you for a business name in Stripe. I already have mine set. If you just click up here, this little drop down, you can create a business name. So what does yours say here? It might say no name or unnamed. What does it say here for you at the top left in the Stripe dashboard? Yes, okay, so it says add account name. So just put in an account name and then the payment should work. Yes, Justin, I will put in the payment page to Pastebin. No problem. So there's the link if you need the HTML for the payment view. And yours will be exactly the same as mine. We all have different keys, but the keys are being read from appsettings.json. So yes, you do need to add an account name in Stripe. You only have to do that once. So then it shows your store name, get me a game purchase of $80. You put in the card number, just alternate 42s. This is an acceptable Visa card. I'll show you the different card numbers in Stripe. So now I try to pay. And now it takes me to save order, which is blank, which is good. If I go to the Stripe panel and hit refresh, so it now shows a payment today of $80. If I go into payments, it's going to show me that new payment of $80, right? My Ontario Tech email. Payment is complete. If I click on it, it shows me the session ID, the credit card that was used. It evaluates risk. Here was my name, postal code, what I purchased, the fee that Stripe takes. And normally this would be tied to a merchant bank account. So Stripe would be depositing that $77.38 in the bank account. Tells me where the customer's from. So the Stripe panel is awesome. So where can you find the other Stripe credit cards? So Stripe cards. So Stripe gives a list for testing of all the different cards. So if you want to test, I'll put this link in the chat. If you want to test Visa, Visa debit, MasterCard, MasterCard debit, they give you working card numbers as well as international ones. So you can test your scenario with all of these. They give you all these different cards and different scenarios you can try. So before you would ever put a site live, you would want to test with a bunch of these to make sure whatever card your customer supports, typically it's Visa and MasterCard, that you put through payments with Stripe. So maybe I want to test this with an invalid. So I'm going to go back. Now my cart is still here because we haven't cleared it out. So I'll put something else in the cart. We'll have to deal with that. So I'll buy a couple copies of The Last of Us. So we can look at the invalid card. How does it work? So maybe I put in a Visa number, right? It automatically checks, tells me that's not a valid card, or I put in a valid card. but I put in an expiry date in the past, it automatically does all this checking. It will also check if the card is valid and has room for it to process this charge. Okay, so our Stripe payment is working now. So we're about due for a break and to stretch our legs. So we have to do a couple things when we come back. The first one, as Diana mentioned, is we're going to have to build this save order. So if we get a successful payment back and recorded from Stripe in our payment gateway, we want to create a new order in the database. We want to clear out the shopping cart. Right? We want to remove the items in the cart. And then we want to generate an order confirmation page to show the user. It will basically look like kind of like this page. So we're going to want to show that confirmation as well as build a list. So when we're logged in, we can click a link that might say like my orders, and we can see all the orders. Then we can click on any order and view the order details. So we can scaffold that. We can create an orders controller with views and then just customize it a little bit. So we want to build the save order method that will create the order, copy all the items from the cart to the order details, and then delete everything in the cart, and then generate and show the user a confirmation. So I'm going to push everything we've done up to GitHub, so it'll be there for your reference, and we will take a 10-minute break and come back at 1 o'clock. Make sure you get out of your chairs again.